One of the questions we've gotten a lot lately is I want to target my database on Facebook. So it's actually a really simple answer here, which is you take your CSV file. You want name, email, phone number in the file. So you just literally 3 columns, name, email, phone number. Make it their cell phone number if you do have other numbers. Happens less and less now that people have other numbers for people. But name, email, cell phone. And then in the ads manager, there's a section called custom audiences. You literally just go in there, upload it in, and it's going to match what people's Facebook and Instagram accounts are. So the email and phone number you give them, are they attached to accounts on Facebook? So that when you run ads, that's who it's going to run to. Typically, you need at least 100 matches for it to work. That's not like a hard and fast rule. Like sometimes it can be a little bit less. Sometimes they'll tell you it should be more. Like they want it to be over 1,000 typically. There was a time you could go as little as 20, but now they do typically want at least 100. What we find is they don't tell you the number of matches anymore, but from back when they did, if you're uploading a consumer database, it's going to be about a 60% match rate because that's the emails and phone numbers you're using. The older the database, the more likely it seems to match. The under 35-ish, they can be slightly lower. And there's kind of demographic reasons. Like a lot of people had different emails when they were kids, grew up, got a more adult address. Just kind of is what it is. So, but that one's about a 60% match rate, typically what we find, because they might have signed up with a different email than what you have. Then the next part of that would be if you're trying to target the industry. So like you want to advertise to realtors. Typically, it's a much lower, like 40% match rate, because a lot of times they would have signed up for Facebook and Instagram with their personal email address, and you have their professional one. So this is where phone number can help because they're more likely to tie the accurate phone number to the account. But again, it's not perfect, but great way to do it. So how we approach it is we upload the whole database in, and then through something like Zapier, you can actually set it up so every new person who comes into your database can be put into a retargeting audience. Now, if you want to get advanced with this, you can definitely get into things like this audience in my database with these tags go into this custom audience and see this, and they go into this one and see this, and go into this one and see this. You can start getting into all that. I find a lot of people, they don't have a sophisticated enough in real estate like marketing strategy to necessitate doing this one. Also depends on audience size. Like if your database is 1,000, like a lot of agents, their databases might only be 500 to 1,000 people. Just put them all into one, advertise them all. Not a big deal. Now, if you are one of the agents who has 20, 30, 40, 50,000 plus databases, that's when you want to get more into segmenting your database. But even those size from a Facebook ads standpoint is pretty small. So it's not hard to kind of reach them all at once. But typically just upload a CSV file, name, email, phone number, 3 columns. It'll match about 60% of them, and then you can start running ads to them indefinitely. And like if you are that where you have maybe 1,000 people in it, you can set it at like the minimum budget is like $1.67 a day, and it'll just slowly drip your content so that they know you're around. Super simple. All right, next question. Should I retarget my website visitors or people who have engaged with my profile? So when to retarget what can change a little bit based on what you're doing, but right now it's more reliable retargeting people who are on platforms. So I mean, like they're on Facebook or on Instagram because they're logged into their account. Nothing can be blocked about their data because they're logged into their account. So Facebook can, based on the actions they're taking, reliably retarget them. Once they go to your website, depending on privacy settings and different things like that, you might not be able to track them as well. So they're both great, and I do them as much as possible of both. But you're going to find on-platform retargeting is a lot more accurate and a lot more full in terms of like everyone who comes, you can retarget them. Whereas like everyone who goes to your website, you won't be able to retarget all of them just because you can't track them the same way anymore. It used to be a lot more powerful, both all like the Apple privacy changes and things like that. And it's only going more that route. But now there are changes with obviously APIs and different things like that to get into the really technical stuff where they're making it so you can try and target as much as possible. But the more you can do on platform retargeting, the better. But if you don't have a big presence or an engaged audience or anything like that on there, not as effective. Now, where this also comes into play a lot is if you want to get around the housing category on Facebook. And when I mean get around, I don't mean to like break the principles of it. I mean, like, a lot of times that's applied in places it shouldn't be. So in those cases, like if you want to target your farm area with a seller focused ad, run a non-real estate video to your area that's hyper targeted, and then create a custom audience of anyone who watches 3 seconds of that video. Then you can come back and just say, okay, if you watched the 3 seconds of this video with the housing category on, now we're going to run this kind of call to action ad. And it's still only going to go to people who watch that video, which the only people who watch the video were from your custom retargeting audience, which you know is hyper targeted. So despite the housing category, you can still make it a lot tighter. You just need to be able to run that first ad that's not housing with a video, and then set it to that minimum 3 seconds. Super simple to do. All right, last question today. We're going to keep today quick and simple. Can I retarget too much? Yes. So there's a stat in your ads manager called frequency. You do want to kind of keep that one in mind as you're going about things, because if you are not paying enough attention to it and you're retargeting too much, like say that frequency gets up to like 10, you're actually going to get to a point where you're like annoying them, and they're actually going to get upset that they're seeing you so much, and that they'll start to like mark your ads as spam, angry reactions, things that can hurt the performance of your ad and hurt your brand locally. So if it's a really long running ad, we want that frequency typically to be in that 3 to 5, which means the average person will see it 3 to 5 times. Now, there's also things we do like short-term retargeting ads where we don't worry the same way. So like we'll sometimes do like a 3-day ad where it's like, let's say you get a new lead in for the next 72 hours. We're blasting them really, really hard for those 72 hours. And like that frequency might go up until like 15, 16. And that means that 15, 16 times over 3 days, they're going to see it. And what we're doing with those is we're trying to get those who are actually ready to move to put up their hand. So that say they opted in on like get a list of homes in your area. And the next 3 days, they're going to see an ad about why they should hire you and to book a call with you to get that. And this is just one of those ways to kind of like help identify those ready to move now. Because when you get a lead, that first initial part should be, I want to identify as quickly as I can all the people in these leads coming in that are ready to move now. Everyone else we're going to put into our regular follow-up thing, but like I really want to focus on all the leads that come in. Is there anyone looking to move right away? So between calls, texts, emails, all that, and then we're going to add in these ads for a short window where we're hitting them from every side to be like, if you are going to be moving, we're here to help you. So from a short-term window, there's no such thing as too much retargeting. If you go beyond that, then yeah, you can start to annoy them by almost being there too much, and you can actually start to hurt yourself a little bit. So it's finding that balance. So long-term, long-running ads, we look for a frequency between like 3 to 5, 3 to 6 range. On the short term, so like a 3-day ad that's a heavy retargeting, I don't really care how high that gets. I think I've gone up to like 22 before. It's great. So don't worry too much about that. If it's short term, long term, yeah, you want to keep that a little bit lower, but you still want to stay top of mind with them. For like a regular ad though, that frequency, typically we find the best performing is between like a 1.2, a 1.7. Typically once we see frequency on a non-retargeted ad go above 1.7, the results start to go like this. Typically they're fine until 2, and then 2 you start to see whatever metric you're tracking go up. So we do try to kind of keep in that 1.2, 1.7 range with our specific creative. That's it for this episode of Inbox Zero. So this is literally just a show where I answer questions that come into my inbox and I put them up here. If you have any, you can put them in the chat, or you can email me, andrew@justsellhomes.com. I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, I appreciate you guys taking the time today to watch. As always, stay tuned for next week.